Hello and welcome to episode 114 with myself, Jessica, the host of the Mo Money Podcast. And this is the last episode of season 4 of the podcast, which is crazy. And so I thought I would do something a little bit special, and that would be a solo episode. So I love doing these. I wanted to do more of these throughout this season, but I'll be honest, I just got busy and I had a lot of great guests to interview. So that's kind of what, filled up all of my time. But I am excited to kind of share what I've been up to these past several months since I did my last solo episode, which was at the beginning of the season back in January. I cannot even believe 6 months has passed since that time because a lot has happened and it just went by so quickly. I did not expect that. I know that sounds dumb, but it's true. I didn't expect the time to fly by as it did because I don't know, in the past, I guess few years, how sometimes years, there's times that just drag on and then there's times that fly by. That's kind of what the past couple of years were. There were times that would just flew by and I'm like, what happened to that month? And there's times that just dragged on and wouldn't end. Well, the past 6 months have been just flying by pretty much, which is crazy. But I would like to think that that's also a good sign because it would be a bad sign if they dragged on because, and if you listen to that episode, which I will include in the show notes, but I believe it is episode 82. But basically that episode was me letting y'all know that I did something crazy and totally unexpected and quit my job, my 9-to-5 job, so I can pursue my dream of working for myself. And that was back in January. We're June, the end of June now, so hit the 6-month mark and things are going way better than I expected. I mean, I'm gonna knock on wood right now, knock on wood. But I honestly, before I made the decision to leave my job, and when I was kind of getting all of my ducks in a row and figuring out, okay, what's the worst case scenario? That's what I like to plan for. The worst case scenario in my mind was if I, made $30,000 and realized that I needed to get a real job after a year. I knew I could survive on that little based on my expenses. It just means I would live very frugally and basically only spend money on the bare essentials. But again, I wouldn't regret that decision, even if that were the case, because I am very much in the mind that, if you feel like something in your gut, you need to do it. There's no time like the present to actually do it. I hate living with the idea of regretting, not doing something. I just cannot stand that. I'd rather take a huge risk and do something that scares me than not do something and regret not trying it out later. So so that was kind of my worst case scenario. And luckily I have, that's not the case. Halfway through the year, I'm doing just fine. I am on track to match, if not exceed, my salary that I had at my old job, which makes me feel really good that, okay, this wasn't such a bad idea. But beside the financials, obviously it's important, but aside from, all of that, the best part of, me taking this leap of faith and doing this is I just love my life a lot more. I didn't realize how overworked and stressed out and unhappy and depressed I was until I made this change in my life. And it's really interesting to know that you can make a change and things will get better. Because I think, and we probably all, have experienced things like this where you're in a rut and it seems impossible to get out. And you're just like, well, maybe that's just how life is. Life is hard. Being an adult is hard. But what I've discovered is, yes, sometimes it is hard, but it doesn't have to always be like that. In order to, change things up, you have to change things up. You have to do something different. And sometimes that means doing something totally scary and outside of your comfort zone. So best decision so far that I've made. probably one of the biggest risks I've taken in my life, aside from moving away from my hometown to move to Toronto. But so far I'm very happy with the decision. And the big reason really is now I get to put all of my time and energy and passion into something that I love. And it's insane that it almost took me this long to discover that this is what I should probably pursue as a career and as a calling, so to speak. I love personal finance. I love talking about money. I love learning about money. I love teaching others about money. So it's cool that the past 6 months, that is absolutely what I've been able to do. Besides, all the other things that come into play when running your own business, especially an online business. But that's okay because luckily I have lots of varied skills from my bizarre background and, of being a film student and then studying digital marketing and working in sales. And all these things have somehow, it's kind of funny how those things, work into your life later on. You never think you're going to use those skills, but they've all come into play and are very handy now that I am my own business person. So another solo episode I did in season 3, which is almost a year ago, was me talking about how me and my husband bought our first place. And now we're like a month or so away from our kind of 1-year anniversary of checking this place out and putting a bid on it and getting it, which is also crazy that a year has passed and we've been in this place for about a year. But not that anything's really changed in terms of this home. I mean, we had a lot of plans to do, painting all of the walls and changing things up and renovations and all that stuff. And it's not even so much, I mean, obviously the financials come into play, like, when you really do start crunching the numbers on how much it costs to make things how you want them to look, you realize they are way more expensive. Just little things are way more expensive than you would expect. So we haven't done as much as we initially planned, but we also don't really care. It's kind of fine. Everything works in this house, and that's the main thing. Obviously, luckily we were smart enough to put away some money in a kind of housing home emergency fund for, the emergencies that always tend to happen when you're a homeowner. So in that original episode, which was also episode 54, in case you want to check that one out, I talked about how once we moved into our place, we realized that there's a couple important things that were not working that should have been working, including the washer and dryer did not work, could not clean our clothes, which is not good. And also the stove, I mean, it did work, but the original one that they had when we looked at the place, they had swapped it out probably because it didn't work, and they replaced it with basically the cheapest version of something that someone could use. It was just the ugliest piece of junk, quite honestly. And once we got in here, because it was brand new, so I knew that we could at least try to sell it and then upgrade to something a bit nicer. So we did that to the annoyance of my husband, who thought it was just like a waste of time, but whatever, I don't care. We did it, and now he's in love with our current stove. But anyways, doing both of those cost money. And but luckily, again, we were smart enough to have an emergency fund, because everyone tells you have some cash on hand. You don't want to have to rely on getting a line of credit or something to pay for these things, which I totally agree. So that really made us happy that we were prepared. But what we didn't expect was fast forward like 7 or 8 months into homeownership, some other things broke. Awesome. Again, like, our place is 12 years old, and that is the age when things start to break. So just in case you are thinking of buying a home, keep that in the back of your mind. So definitely have an emergency fund if the place that you're considering buying is 12 years old, because if everything's original, things are going to start breaking one thing after the other. But anyway, so we survived the winter, but throughout the winter we kind of felt like maybe the heating wasn't really working. Like, it was really cold, but we're like, I don't know, maybe it's just cold. But eventually then we're like, you know what, let's get this checked out. We waited, kind of the winter was over, so it was springtime. And they're like, oh yeah, this isn't working properly. And to replace this, it's called an air handler. to replace that, you also actually have to replace your air conditioner. So that was fun. That, and we did do a bunch of research. We wanted to get the best price. We, wanted to make sure that if we did have to shell out thousands of dollars, we were doing it the smart way. I talked to a bunch of different companies and sales reps and had them look it over. They all gave us very different quotes. And eventually we decided to go with one company. And I think in total to replace this air handler and air conditioner cost us over $8,000. Oh gosh, it was not fun to write that check. But again, we felt also really good because again, we had the money saved up for these things to happen. But when we were talking to the sales rep, it was interesting because they kept on talking and kind of pushing their payment plan on us. And they're like, there's no interest and all this kind of stuff, which I don't believe. And they really were being like, you definitely want to do this payment plan. And I just can't stand salespeople that are basically giving kind of terrible financial advice. They should be like, giving us a discount for paying it in one fell swoop. But no, they literally just kind of talked about this payment plan, I guess, because most people do not have, those types of funds saved up for these instances. So it felt good to be able to tell them, no, we're good. We want to pay it outright. So we own the units and we have no obligations and everything like that. So that felt really good. So home ownership wise, getting up to almost a year being a homeowner, besides, a couple expensive things breaking down and having to pay for them to replace them, I really like it. I'm really liking it. And I don't want to be one of those people that's just like, oh, you need to, buy a place, renting sucks. Cause I'll never say that. I'll always be an advocate for both. Cause, one isn't necessarily better than the other, depending on what your situation is. We rented for years cause it made financial sense for us and I don't regret it a minute. But it is nice owning your own place, I'll be honest. And also this place is just way bigger than our last rental. I mean, we lived in a very tiny 1-bedroom, so having 2 floors, 2 bedrooms and lots of space and my own office for once is quite the luxury, I must say. So I'd say those are, becoming a homeowner and quitting my job to work for myself are kind of the 2 biggest things that have happened to me in the past year or even really the past few years. I mean, they're pretty significant things if you think about it. But so those are kind of things that have happened to me. Those are, what I've been up to, when I haven't been doing solo episodes. But what am I planning on doing in the future? I think that's always kind of a little bit more exciting. I've got a lot of things in the queue besides, looking forward to taking a much needed break from the podcast to, enjoy the summer. I have a couple vacations on the horizon, which much needed. Oh my goodness. It's insane that I've been self-employed for 6 months and the only vacation we've been on is a weekend away in Coburg, Ontario. Yeah, not Germany. Coburg, Ontario, which is nothing wrong with Coburg. It was actually very lovely and relaxing, but it was an hour away and it was just like we needed to get away from the stresses of Toronto for a little bit. So it wasn't like, going to, I don't know, Mexico or anything like that. Not that we're going to Mexico, but I do dream about it on a daily basis. No, we are going to go to the Maritimes, which I'm very excited. So we're going to go to Nova Scotia, PEI, New Brunswick for about 10 days or so, which I'm so looking forward to. I've been before, absolutely loved it. So I'm excited to show Josh around and meet with, we're going to a wedding. Then we're going to hang out with some of my family back in New Brunswick and some friends that we know in Nova Scotia. And then we're going to go to Vancouver, though that's, kind of our, annual, semi-annual trip to Vancouver. But this time it's to celebrate my older sister's wedding, which I'm very, very excited about. And I feel like there's another, are we doing something else? Oh yeah. We're going to Montreal this week with some friends that are visiting us from Vancouver. And I'm also super excited because we've been a couple years ago just for a weekend, but it was very rushed, and we went to, see a couple of those sites, and that was kind of it. But this, it's a little bit more chillaxed. We don't really have that much of a plan, but I've got a list of places that I definitely want to, basically they're just food places, all the places I want to eat and drink. So that's kind of what that's going to be all about. Maybe I'll try to practice my French, but they don't generally like when I do that because my accent's awful. But I'm very much looking forward to that. Hopefully there will be a beach vacation in 2018. It's got to happen, guys. It's got to happen. Please. It's got to happen. I've been dreaming about being on the beach for so long. But anyways, aside from, the upcoming vacations, holidays, travel, which is much needed because, man, does travel help you so much. Like, it has impacted all the trips. Every single trip I've been on has impacted me in a positive way. Even like the bad experiences during those trips, where you're like, sick. I mean, that was Paris a year ago. I was awfully, awfully sick for pretty much the whole trip. But, a year later now, I'm like, oh, wasn't that such a great trip? I mean, it was, but also violently ill. Anyways, aside from all of those things, I've got some exciting things that exciting projects that I'm excited to get off the ground. Obviously, me and my pal Jacqueline Phillips have, launched the first Rich and Fit boot camp back at the beginning of this month, and we're having a blast with our students. And so this runs until the end of July 30th. That's when the 7-week course will be finished. And but we definitely have plans to do another launch so more students can join in the fun, get rich and fit with us, hopefully in September. So I'll probably do like a special little podcast episode before that to announce all of those details so you can find out. But of course, it's always just, the easiest way to get onto my mailing list so you find out all these details right away. Just go to jessicamorales.com/subscribe to do that. But so the Rich and Fit Bootcamp, that is, on the horizon. Again, very excited. And I've been diligently doing all of the workouts in the course so I can be, proof that it does work. And it does. It does, but it's hard. I'll tell you guys, if you want something, you got to work hard no matter what it is, including working out. But really enjoying that. But besides that, another big, goal I hope to achieve before September is to get, this thing that I've been talking about forever is my, financial counselor accreditation. So I've been spending several months studying. I hope to do the first exam. There's 2 exams. The first exam in July, and then I'm going to hustle like crazy to study and hopefully do the second and last exam end of August. So we'll see if that's possible. But I mean, so far, I absolutely love it. It is exactly what I wanted to do. I have talked so much about, I want to help educate people more and do some money coaching down the road. And this is exactly the perfect program for that. So I'm stoked and I'm just absolutely loving it. But beyond that, I've got lots of other, ways to kind of, help people, which includes public speaking. I've been doing a little bit more of that this year, and it's been awesome. And also, again, talk about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. The first public speaking thing I did was, I think in my adult life, quite honestly, was last September. When I did, there's this thing called Ignite at FinCon, that big personal finance conference I talk about a lot with lots of my guests because I meet them there. And I had 5 minutes to do a presentation about whatever I wanted. And I chose to do one about how to get over being, awkward and shy with, strangers when you're an introvert, because I felt like that was always a big roadblock in my life. I was terrified to talk to people because I'm super introverted, and I just talked about how I kind of got over that, and a big reason is this podcast. Who knew? anyway, so that was kind of my, big, first, trial of, if I could actually public speak and not like run off the stage crying. And luckily it was all fine. And since then I've done several other things. So I'm excited to do more. I'm going to be participating in the Money Summit, which is, an online summit. I'll be doing a presentation for that. So I'll include some more details in the show notes about that. That'll happen July 20th, I believe. And then I will also be speaking at the Canadian Personal Finance Conference in the fall, which will be awesome because there's a ton of awesome speakers, all female, which is awesome, represent. So that will be really cool. And there's a couple other things that'll probably be happening too. So I'm getting there. You just kind of have to push yourself, do things that make you uncomfortable. And the more you do them, the, easier they become is what I've realized in life. Okay. What else? Oh yeah. So one thing actually, I was also kind of thinking of doing for, thinking in the future in season 5 of the podcast, which will be likely end of September, starting. How I've had this podcast, obviously you're listening to it. And, usually I interview kind of expert guests, on the Wednesdays. And then I usually have, the listener series on the Thursdays, where if you're a listener of the podcast, you have a personal finance story, journey, whatever that you would like to share to other listeners of the show. I would interview you and share it. And it's awesome. I've loved it. But I was thinking, of not only just like continuing that, but maybe doing something a little bit different. And I would love to get your feedback. But one element, I think it's so key to obviously talk to people about, budgeting and saving and investing and debt repayment. But one thing that I feel like is very, topical, or it's really like, it really resonates with people, especially me, especially millennials, is just like the extra thing of making more money. So I was thinking of maybe doing a special series or something, that really focuses on, side hustles and entrepreneurship and making more money. Cause I found, at least in my life, that side hustles and entrepreneurship really did take me to the next level. I'm not one of those people that preaches, anyone can make money online, because no, not everyone can do that. And it is very difficult. And, but there are so many different ways to make additional money on top of your salary. I've always had some sort of side hustle going on while working my, a 9-to-5, and it really has helped me afford lots of things that otherwise I wouldn't be able to afford, or would have made me delay lots of things, by years. So I don't know, just putting that out there. If you think that's a good idea, I'd love to get your feedback in an iTunes review or tweet or email or whatever. Just, I think that might be kind of a cool idea. And plus there's just so many cool, inspiring stories of people doing really, innovative things to make extra money that aren't, just starting a blog. So just something I've been thinking about. So to sort of wrap up this lengthy, rambly solo episode, there's a couple things that I want to let you know about in case you don't know. One of my favorite things, I guess, about having kind of my own business and being able to try new things, do different projects. A couple things that I've been doing lately that I've found just really, impactful and helpful and awesome are, the community building things that I've been doing. So, I've talked a little bit about how I've done a couple live events here in my hometown, my new hometown of Toronto, called the Millennial Money Meetup. So I've done 2 of those. I'm hoping to do one more in 2017. Off that, I was even thinking of maybe doing some kind of little mini meetups, where it's a bit smaller, just with maybe a handful of people, where we kind of, go into have a private room or share a long table or something. And we can just kind of, help each other and talk about what's going on in our personal finance lives or something like that. This is an idea I've been fiddling around with. So again, if you have some feedback or thoughts, let me know if you think that'd be cool. Again, that would only be something I could do in Toronto. But, again, what I like to also do is have these communities online, which is a big reason why I started my own Facebook group last September, I believe I started it, called Money Life Balance. That's all about money, life, and balance. And it's great because there was like nobody in the group when I first started. Maybe it was 20 people, and I was just like the only one talking in there. And I'm like, oh goodness, this isn't good. And but what with those, types of things, you just have to kind of be patient and, let it grow organically. And now we're almost at 1,000 people, which is awesome. And it's not just me putting all the questions and thoughts and whatever out there. People are being active and asking each other questions, and they're talking to each other. And it's like, oh my God, like everyone's happy and they're just hanging out with each other and chatting. Oh, it's like the coolest thing in the world. So on that, if you're not part of the group, make sure to check it out. It's, I think, facebook.com/groups/money-life-balance, or I'll put the info in the show notes. But I think it's so cool to really kind of curate this community that really is focused on just personal finance. It's, there's a lot of other kind of money groups, but they usually have different focuses. Either it's just like just debt or making money online or whatever. So this one's, for anybody. You don't have to be Canadian. It's anybody. There's Australians in the group. There's people from, everywhere in the world in the group. And it's really just about building each other up, educating each other, helping each other when, someone has a question. I think, recently someone had a question about like, how much should I tip, moving, people? Like, are we supposed to tip and how much? It's like, that is a good question to ask. What are your thoughts, people? So again, if you want to join it, just go to facebook.com/groups/money-life-balance. Hope you can join us because it's a lot of fun. But I was thinking of doing some other things within that group. Like, I don't know, maybe some Facebook live streams, or like doing some sort of book club where we can all read the same personal finance book and somehow meet up. I'm not like 100% sure how we would all get together online in the group to chat about it, but I'm sure I can figure out, what other people are doing. But that's kind of an idea, but I'm always open to ideas. So if you have some ideas and like, hey, this would be cool, and you don't necessarily want to build it or do it yourself, let me know, and maybe I can do it and we can enjoy it together. That would be kind of cool. But anyways, so this is the end of season 4 of the Mo Money podcast with myself, Jessica. Thanks for listening to my rambling times. It was definitely needed. I think I always like these because it's just me talking in my house when I'm alone. And it's just kind of therapeutic because I can just talk about all the things that I haven't really, I usually bored Josh to death about it. So it's nice to kind of talk to you about it and you get to listen to me or not. But thanks for listening. And I'm excited to see you back here in just a few short months. But on that note, I really want you to enjoy the summer. Continue listening to, my back catalog of over 100 episodes. Leave me an iTunes review if you don't mind, because then I can give you a shout out in a future episode in season 5, which I think would be kind of cool. But I definitely want to stay in touch. Don't go anywhere. I don't want to come back and you not be here. So make sure to join my mailing list. It's one important way to stay in touch with me. All the things I'm doing, jessicamoorhouse.com/subscribe, or join that Facebook group that I mentioned a few times. I think that would be really cool. But again, I'm on social, I'm on the Instagram, I'm on the Twitter. So if you want to stay in touch and want to chat, that's where I'm at anytime. I look at my apps and my phone way too much. So anyways, I'm going to wrap up here. I've got to clean my house because our friends are coming over in a few hours and it is a disaster and I don't want them to know how we live. So thanks for listening one last time. Have a fabulous summer and I'll see you back